Welcome to Your Creative Midlife. I'm Betsy Bush. Are you ready to take up something new? A paintbrush, an instrument, a camera? Looking to explore the creative side of life but not sure how to start or what to expect? My guests were where you are right now, and they're here to share their experience and give great advice. Today, I'm talking to Lynn Savarese. She's a Harvard-trained attorney who left her legal career for parenting and then made an amazing pivot to become an award-winning photographer in just 10 years. Her work is shown in private collections and all over the world. We talked about how she jump-started her career, how she uses her photography to advance the causes she cares about, and she shares advice for anyone just starting out. Thanks for tuning in. You can see episodes on our website, yourcreativemidlife.com, and read more about me and my guests. And if you like us, please subscribe or follow and give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. I'm Betsy Bush. Thanks for being here. Lynn, thank you so much for being here with me today on Your Creative Midlife. I am so interested in your creative journey because you started as a Harvard-trained lawyer, but you took a break for parenthood. And then what happened? You took a class at the 92nd Street Y, and I love that you used a community resource to really launch a whole new part of your life. Can you tell me about what that was like?
Yeah. I took a beginning photography class because I was a photographer like anybody else. You know, typically only took pictures of my family on vacation, knew nothing about photography, kept my setting on automatic, and was always less than thrilled with my images. So I decided as a lark to take a beginning photography course. And the instructor said, Lynn, you might want to take your camera off automatic and learn something about aperture and shutter speed and ISO and operate it manually. You'll find it much more satisfying. And she was right. And suddenly this camera turned into this magical thing that took much better pictures, and you could play with it because if you make those adjustments, you get very different outcomes. And so I just found it hugely fun. Again, never imagining that it was anything other than hugely fun. I felt like a child playing, but I was enjoying it. But I also, a friend told me that the Natural History Museum in New York City needed volunteer photographers because they were attempting to figure out their inventory and digitize it. And so you needed no skill to volunteer. So I signed up to do that. And I was assigned 3 still cabinets to open, take everything out one at a time and photograph it. And it would be part of this digital library of their inventory. And I opened these cabinets up, and it's filled with dead birds, taxidermied birds.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was horrified initially, but handling them one at a time turned out to be a deeply moving experience.
Wow.
And you feel this need to pay tribute to them, to honor them, because they were alive once. They were poisoned in their prime. They will never be publicly displayed because most of them were flawed for one reason or another. And so, yeah, I wanted to do justice and honor them. And I found the experience incredibly poignant. And
and this is one of your images. We have three of your images of the taxidermied birds. This was a project that you just kind of fell into.
Totally.
When you had just started to learn how to photograph.
Totally.
Yeah, do you know what is the name of this?
You know, I never learned, I gave my own Latin names to each of the birds so that it's no longer part of a species. It's an individual life that existed.
I love that.
Unfortunately, I don't remember the Latin name I gave this guy. But he's very powerful. He's very expressive.
Absolutely. And those eyes, of course, we know they're not real eyes, they're glass eyes,
but the stare he's giving us
Yeah.
is really, it's like, look what you're doing to me, or look what you did, or look what you're doing to my world almost, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is fascinating.
So
Tell me about this.
So this was in the still cabinet, and it's clear that the taxidermist abandoned it. Don't know why, but this is part of the process. You wrap it up tightly in string and pin it in place after you've stuffed it to try to recreate and stiffen it in this new position. But it was just abandoned like this, and I found this so moving. And in this beginning photography class, this was the second one I was taking at the International Center of Photography. And one of the assignments was to submit images that you think portray who you are, a self-portrait. So I submitted this.
Wow.
Because I was in a dark place at a time. And I felt like I'd abandoned myself in some ways. And that I had this prior life that I abandoned. It's complicated, but
Sure.
that is one of the great things about photography. It's an opportunity for self-expression, self-reflection, and occasionally art. But he was quite taken with this series, and so this image actually, I would say, launched my photography career, because he arranged for me to have a solo exhibition as a beginning photographer, because of the at a little gallery in the East Village, and it was very well received, and that it gave me enough confidence to submit this and some of the other images in a prestigious international competition, where it was selected as a finalist, and so shown in a international tour in many, many, many places.
Wow.
Which then led to a solo show in Vienna, Austria of these
my
images.
gosh.
So it's all serendipity. I mean, that is not what I set out to do.
But you put yourself out there.
You put yourself out
interestingly,
there, and you take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way. That sounds like fun. And fun is the criteria.
Do you have a name for this? If you named all the different images, or
I do, but I'm so bad I don't remember it now.
that's okay. It looks like, I want to say is it like
It's a starling.
A starling, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's wrapped up and pinned. I thought of Gulliver in Gulliver's
Oh,
Travels.
yeah.
This poor thing. And just from this angle, honestly, it still looks alive.
I know. I don't know why it was abandoned, because it was exquisite. I
Yeah.
thought the tilt of the head was perfect. I could see why some were abandoned, because there was something very unnatural in the way that it was shaped. But this one was just deeply moving to me.
There's, I don't, you must have some innate talent that, you put this on a dark background, and it's lit in such a way that it's, what do you think, what was your process going through this?
So
What made you
actually,
think-
it's interesting you say that, because the museum just wanted a mugshot. They just needed to be able to identify the thing. They didn't care about it being exquisitely rendered. So I actually brought 2 memory cards, and I did mugshots for the museum. But then, yes, I brought my own lights. I mean, just desk lights, a variety of lights around my home. And I did bring a black backdrop and set it on, and then I would photograph these, honoring them. I mean, trying to make them, be respectful of them. And the outcome was quite different. And there's nothing more exciting than, after a shoot like that, coming home and uploading it and looking at it on a large screen. And sometimes you go, oh, that was a disappointment. But sometimes you go, wow, this is stunning. You didn't even see it until you brought it home and really saw it on a screen. And that's always a joyful moment, when you capture something that you didn't even know you captured.
Wow, that is amazing. So these are not the images that the museum got. These
No.
were your own images.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that really showed that you had the sense of what it could be, as opposed to what the museum was asking for.
I think that's right, but a lot of it is just, as I say, play. It's experiment. Wonder what would happen if I did this, you know? And having no expectations, just curiosity, sort of moving you through the day and the shoot.
That's great. If we could have the next slide, please. Yes, okay.
So you can see this is not a natural pose, probably. The owl probably, I don't know, I'm not an expert on owls, but the tilt of the head, the angle of the body, I imagine most owls stay quite erect and quite alert, but there's just something so...
Well, it's also, there's something very, I almost want to say human about it. Like
Yes.
it's looking at you like saying, hello, are you okay?
Yes, yes.
Or what did you think would happen?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And before this project, had anyone asked me how I felt about taxidermy, I would have probably wrinkled up my nose and said, ooh. And I still have very mixed feelings about it. But it turns out to be a much more powerful sort of art form than I would have imagined. And they were alive. And they do deserve to be honored.
No, absolutely. And birds, we know we're losing birds, right?
Exactly.
Well,
yeah, a number of the birds, taxidermy birds I shot, are extinct. So that too was something.
well, so this was a project that really launched you.
It did, and that was about 10 years ago. So that's what I would say. You pursue something because it gives you pleasure, and you have no idea where the pursuit will take you. But if you just put one foot in front of the other, and as long as you enjoy it, it's amazing what adventures it can take you on.
And that it's incredible to, I mean, you must be amazed. It's like, but I was just starting out, and here you were, a gallery in the East Village that was very successful, and then in Vienna and that sort of thing.
No, people who've known me, because this, it took me over half a century to come to photography. It was not part of my life until less than 15 years ago. Wow. And so, for my family, for long-term friends, we're all just kind of, how did this happen? Where did this come from? Because they knew me as a lawyer. They knew me as, very different person.
Were you artistic as a kid? Did you like to draw or paint or do anything like that?
I was cursed to have an older sister who was an extremely talented artist. She could draw and she could paint. And my mother was quite gifted. And I was definitely not thought to be artistically inclined, and rightly so, because they were vastly more talented than me. And if I had any kind of hope for being creative, I imagined that I would write. I would write fiction. And, by the time I was taking creative writing classes in college, I realized that I have zero talent. So I was raised in an environment where art was admired, but no, I did not think of myself as having any talent. So this was a huge surprise to me too.
But it sounds like from the atmosphere you grew up in, you could recognize good art, or you were, immersed in that kind of world. It's not like you came to it from, I think some people grow up in families where there's no art.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
We would be taken to museums. And, my sister was not quite 2 years older than me. And we would be on our stomachs side by side drawing things. And she was always vastly better than me. But it was always really fun and interesting to watch what she did and to try in my own way.
Well, at least your family valued the whatever goes in, right, nurturing that part, at least as a kid. Did your sister grow up to do to be an professional artist, or is that something she still does? I'm just curious.
You know, no is the answer, and if I had 1% of her talent, but she does. She loves her garden, and her garden is her art form now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So after this, you've embarked on a very interesting and important project concerning. Well, why don't we go to the next slide and we can talk through it.
So when I stopped practicing corporate law, I did volunteer work as a lawyer for human rights organizations, and then focused on Sanctuary for Families. They're the largest provider of services to victims of domestic violence in New York State. And I did legal work for them. But then when I took my beginning photography course and I just fell in love with my camera, I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but I don't really want to do volunteer legal work anymore. I just want to photograph. So if you have any need for a photographer, I'm happy to help. And this woman that I was working with, she was at the forefront of trying to raise awareness around sex trafficking in New York State, and to try to change some laws that would make it easier to convict pimps and traffickers. But she wasn't having great success in Albany because the constituency of trafficking victims, they don't have much political clout.
Yeah.
So she said, we have to raise awareness to get the attention of Albany, this, the state assembly and the Senate. And she said, so Lynn, how about if you photograph survivors of trafficking and collect their stories? And how about if you photograph more prominent people that do have political clout and they're willing to share their stature to help raise awareness? And then maybe we make a book of these portraits of survivors and prominent people with brief stories alongside each portrait. And we distribute those to every member of the Assembly and the Senate and Albany. That might make a difference. And that's what we did. And so alongside survivors who were extremely moving to meet and hear the stories of, and she has to conceal her identity.
Of course.
Because, and a number of them did have to, because their lives are at risk. They escaped the life, but there's still people who want to do them harm for having fled. But if you, I'll show you the next one.
Next slide, please.
Another survivor.
Oh.
I took many pictures, sent them the files, but they decided which image they wanted to use for their portrait, and I found that super interesting.
I looked at her and I would not have guessed that she was in this position. She looked to me like maybe she was a rock musician, a celebrity that I didn't recognize. I mean, I think you did a very nice job in portraying them as important. This black and white photography is generally kind of reserved for the celebrity shoots, the Annie Leibovitz shoots, sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I think you portrayed that as someone, she's saying I'm important, and what I went through, people need to understand was really bad.
Well, I think you're right. And when I was because of the lighting, they don't have to hold still. And I wanted them to have as much variety of images to choose among for their portrait as possible. So I kept them moving. But I asked them to think about their experience while I was photographing them and the complicated range of feelings, sadness, anger, gratitude that they escaped the light, determination to stop trafficking or help raise awareness, and all of those things came out in their faces, and I think you can sense that, especially when they don't have to completely conceal their faces.
Next slide, please. Yeah.
So this is Meryl Streep, and she's one of the prominent people willing to lend her celebrity to help raise awareness. And Olivia Wilde and Liam Neeson and Yoko Ono and several New York City mayors and several U.S. attorney generals, a huge cast of characters that appeared in this book. But there's a funny story with this one, because I was given exactly 15 minutes to photograph Meryl, because she keeps a very tight schedule. She happened to be in New York City. She was staying at the Ritz Hotel, and I had 15 minutes to set up my shoot. But the ceiling in her room was quite low, and so I couldn't raise the light with the umbrella on it as high as I might like to. And I shot her for 15 minutes. I didn't have a chance to even see what I had produced. I came home and horrified, because there's a reflection of the umbrella that I used in on her glasses in every single image. And she had insisted on wearing her glasses, which I thought was interesting. So I had to reconstruct her eyes. So it's not the most flattering image of Meryl Streep, but still, I'm enormously grateful to her for having, willingly shared her stature to help raise awareness. And I'm making it sound as if, because of this project, it was exclusively because of this project that we got the laws passed that we wanted to, and that would be an outrageous exaggeration. But it did play some role, and we did get the laws passed, and it made a huge difference.
Fantastic, fantastic. To me, it's interesting that you've found this to be a very important issue, and that you can use your talent to expose that problem to the rest of our comfortable middle-class lives, where we kind of do not even really want to
Go there.
Exactly.
Yeah, most of this happened about a decade ago, but in the last month, I've returned to this project because trafficking is very much on the rise here in New York City, in New York State, in the country, in the world. And so just yesterday, I was photographing a woman from Mexico who was trafficked when she was 17, and her son was murdered by her pimp. She can't return to Mexico because she's afraid for her life. These stories, and they do feel that they are invisible. The pimps typically keep them from seeking help by convincing them that nobody cares about them, that they are trash, that they are garbage, that the life they're living makes them unacceptable to the world at large. And it's very painful to hear these stories, but that's the story that is told over and over and over again. That is the narrative. And there's a lot of truth to it. We are normalizing this and distancing ourselves in the process by referring to people in the life as sex workers. When you were kidnapped as an 8-year-old and trafficked, to call that girl a sex worker is a violation.
Absolutely.
And not many people think about it. So yes, I care about helping to raise awareness, and the camera can help some.
Thank you for that information. I think this is not something that is openly discussed, and I think bringing photography and maybe podcasting at some point, so that we can hear voices. What's nice about podcasting is you don't need to bring a camera, film camera to things, where it's easy to collect sound and interviews and people's voices and generally the atmosphere that someone might be existing in. Is very well transmitted through sound or through audio.
I completely agree. And I really hope that is a project that a masterful podcaster will take on, because these voices are not heard.
Thanks. So let's move on to your next. So now this is your happy place, right?
So I would say in the last 10 years, what I really spend my time photographing almost exclusively is nature, and within nature, water in all of its manifestations, you know, from crazy violent waterfalls to very calm ponds to Ocean Road Beach, which is my go-to ocean on the weekends where we have a house. And I also love to photograph trees because water and trees are our most intimate companions in nature. And I find that water does such a good job of providing therapy. Just
think
the
a lot
sound
of
of
people would
it,
agree with that.
you
Yes.
know, swimming in it, that horizon line is so powerful for so many people. Everybody loves water.
Absolutely. Everyone loves the ocean. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just love this. Tell me what do you see in this image?
So I had this exhibited recently, and someone came up and said, "Oh, that's Rothko meets Sugimoto." I don't know if you're familiar with the Sugimoto photographer, but he's legendary. But he has a series of ocean images where he bisects the water and the sky, sort of like this. But the Rothko part is just the bands of different color. But yeah, I mean, in my next life, I get to be a painter. In this life, I try my best with my camera to create a painterly effect. And this, I exhibit it quite large, typically, 6 feet wide,
Wow.
45 inches tall, and recently begun printing on watercolor paper because it saturates the ink quite differently than other paper and makes it more painterly. I don't know if you can see, but sort of the underbelly of the cloud looks like
it looks
water
like
paint,
watercolor.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like watercolor.
And I love the paper and I love the effect. But yeah.
How much do you think your equipment and your materials play into what you're creating?
I use the same camera. I've used the same camera for all of this time because
Really?
it is my best buddy. And there are cameras out there that are more sophisticated now that can do a lot more, but I'm very comfortable with mine and very loyal to it. And it does what I need it to do to make me happy. But yeah, experimenting with different papers over the last decade has been a really interesting journey. Presentation, I used to not give it as much thought as I do today. Typically, I would use a gallery frame, standard white or black gallery frame. I'd print on a high-quality archival paper, typically leave a white margin around it. And in recent years, it creates kind of, and many photographers present that way, but at the end of the day, it looks kind of poster-like. And if what I'm striving for is something that is more painterly, it helps to use paper with more texture. It helps to consider a mat around it or to float it, decal the edges, give it some dimensionality. Presentation matters, and experiment with different frames, floating frames, whitewash frames, gilt frames, and that's all fun to play with. And it's amazing what a difference it can make depending on your choice of paper and your choice of frame and presentation, as well as scale.
I think most of us would never have the opportunity to have a 6-foot wide picture of something we took on vacation.
So that's interesting. I mean, that frankly is the biggest reason why I seek out opportunities to display my work, you know, art fairs, galleries, because no, you can't just willy-nilly make a print 6 feet wide just to see what it looks like. It's really expensive and it's wasteful. So you need an occasion in order to justify making a print that size, and those are the occasions. And so again, when I do produce these that I imagine this could be cool if it was 6 feet wide, sometimes it turns out to be a dud, and you go, ooh. But sometimes it lives up to your hopes and your expectations, and then it's really thrilling to see.
Wow, that's. I'm fascinated by the fact that you don't have one of these super duper expensive cameras that Would you
It's a-
share? Would you share what kind of camera you use?
Yeah, it's a Canon 5DR, 5SR. It's a medium format. They didn't make it. It was a model that wasn't around for a great deal of time. And so I've purchased replacements on eBay because I want the same camera. And I have several lenses, but I tend to use just one because it works best for me for most situations and most occasions.
Wow. Let's have another slide, please. Yes.
So this is an image in a series that I call Monet in the Adirondacks. We have a little cabin there, and this is Racket River, and I always go and photograph here. And to me, it so often looks like Giverny, Monet's lily pads and his water. And I'm very pleased with this series, and it's also received quite a bit of, acclaim. So I'm grateful for it.
Oh, beautiful. You have is this taken in the fall? It looks like
It
maybe,
is,
yes.
actually, yeah. But I take it all times of year, and so it can be quite different. There's an international competition, the Cameron Women's Photography Competition. And this came in first place, this series for nature. But it's thrilling when I achieve a painterly effect. And in this series, I feel like I occasionally succeeded.
Oh, it's beautiful with the clouds reflected and just the soft mistiness of it. It's gorgeous.
Well,
Really,
thank you.
Really beautiful.
Thank
How about the next slide, please?
So this also is a huge series. This is a diving board off of a dock on Lake Saranac in the Adirondacks, where we have our cabin. And I have photographed this diving board all times of day, all weather conditions, all water conditions. And it's been a very successful series. And it particularly pleases me that young people just starting out, buying maybe their first piece of art, very often they're drawn to one of my diving board images. Wow. Some of them appear more abstract than this. I think this reads as water in the background, but sometimes when the water is just flat, you just see the structure and people look at it and they say, what is that? Is that a pyramid? What is that? But then when they realize it's a diving board, it's a pretty powerful, iconic image because we all remember what it's like to be at the end of the diving board. Do you dare to do that front flip or that back flip or dive in when you know it's going to be really cold? And so it invites you to dare. It invites you to face the day. And the lines are clean.
The lines are clean. To me, sometimes it looks abstract.
Yes.
Right? There's an abstract quality to it. With a lot of your nature paintings
And
or
that is-
photographs.
And that is, when I achieved that, I'm very pleased because I really believe that anybody interested in abstract painting, they should go to Mother Nature to teach them how to do it. Because you find abstraction, especially in water, but in a lot of nature. I mean, she manifests abstraction all the time if you look at it carefully. So, yeah.
One of your photographs, I don't think we have it for the slide, but it's bark of maybe a sycamore tree where you have the patches of light and dark, and maybe there's a little bit of green and a little bit of pink.
Yeah.
That's
Those
fascinating
are plane
to see
trees.
that.
And Central Park is my go-to place to photograph trees all times of year.
Wow.
But yeah, the bark is exquisite. And if you go after it's been soaked in rain, the colors get pretty rich. And I've got no qualms about saturating the colors more. I mean, painters get to choose their palette, and I feel like I should be able to tinker with the color if I feel like it. So that was another series that made me happy.
Do you do much what I would call post-production do you put filters on some of your images so you get that saturated color more than you might have captured on site?
I will saturate, and sometimes I desaturate because, as you know, Mother Nature can be outrageous, and nobody would believe that the blue was really that blue. So I have to calm her down a little bit. And I'll clean up the diving board. That's a very old diving board, and I bleached it a bit. But yeah, I tinker, and that's a huge part of the fun also, is just playing with an image. And I'm not a masterful editor, but I love to tinker.
Next slide, please.
Yeah, so this is Ocean Road Beach again.
Yeah.
And it's water again. And I go there to be soothed, to be calmed, and this is what it gives me. And I'm enormously grateful. And sometimes I want to find an expression for my rage. And water can do that for me too.
Sure.
You know, these crashing waves in a storm, they capture what I'm trying to get. So
with this kind of light blue silvery look, you know, I think so often it's like capturing that. It's like, oh, I've seen that.
we all have, yeah.
And it's, you know, it's there for a moment perhaps, and it goes, and then you have the beach looks almost pink. Maybe that's a sunset effect, and it's just beautiful.
And we have seen it,
Yeah.
and it does make most of us feel happier with the world
Yes.
when we get to be immersed in this kind of view for a while.
I think there's one more. Is there one more? Is there? Yeah, the clouds.
So I really encourage people to look up more often than they do. I mean, admire the clouds even more than you currently do. And definitely when you're walking under a tree, look up. Look at, you know, its grandeur all the way up.
I saw this one in the gallery, your gallery show recently, and I just found myself being drawn into it, like the little pink edges around the edges of the clouds, and it was an amazing feeling. It really was.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you have any advice for people someone who's saying, "Oh my gosh, I would love to pick up a camera again," or maybe I took a college course and wouldn't that be fun? Do you have any advice for anyone who's inspired by what they've heard?
I really believe in just take a class. See what your classmates are doing. And it doesn't have to be a fancy camera. Our iPhones are amazing cameras now, amazing. Yes. And I think, you know, Apple stores give instruction on all the things that camera can do. I have something called a central tremor. My hands shake. And so I need a heavy camera to steady my hands. And an iPhone, I'm doing this when I take pictures. But I also think it's a good idea to go look at paintings and drawings because they can inspire you as a photographer. You can learn a lot about composition by going to see art in all of its forms. And sculpture too. It helps if you, again, when I was taking that beginning photography class and I was just learning about aperture and shutter speed, I would go to the Metropolitan Museum every week. And it's extraordinary, but they allow photographers to bring a tripod in on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. They're the only major museum in the world that allows you and me to bring in a tripod. You have to register at the front desk. But with a tripod, you can get up close to those little figurines in the glass cases or the sculptures, and the lighting can be pretty insufficient lighting, but with a tripod, you can change the shutter speed and let it slow it down so that you get enough light to take a decent picture. And I photographed almost every piece of sculpture in that museum, and you can get up close because unlike people, they don't get impatient with you. You can, you know, get up super close to their nose, to their buttocks, to their all different angles, and it was so much fun. And so I would encourage you to, to use your camera to explore. Get up really close to things. Get at unusual angles with things. You know, lie on the ground and shoot your camera up. Get in the water to photograph. iPhones you can actually take into the water. But just, it's the best toy if you allow yourself to play with it.
Wow. What great advice and what great ideas you're sparking in me, and I hope in my listener as well. Just, explore the world with the camera and look up and try to, and learn how to use your camera too.
Yeah.
Is take it off automatic and learn about shutter speed and aperture and all those things, which I kind of remember doing when I took photography 40 years ago, and we were using film, of course. But I think what you can do with a digital camera, using those same tools, is something I think a lot of people haven't really explored.
I think that's right. And it's so easy. I mean, you can master those functions pretty quickly if you experiment. And that's really all you need in order to be completely liberated and make use of it. And I would also really encourage people, there are so many lenses out there, there's so many different cameras out there, and maybe I'm a little crazy to be so attached to the same one for a decade, but I do encourage you to be attached to one for long enough to really know what it can do for you.
Wow. Lynn Savarese, it's great advice. And thank you so much for sharing so much of your story and talking through your work like this. It's been a wonderful session for me. I'm really enjoying this.
Well,
and
thank you.
It's been great to talk to you.
Pleasure to be here and talk about this. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot.